Southern Miss's Austin Crowley, the first Sunbelt Player of the Week, and more on the Cajun Field Construction Project. It's Locked On Sunbelt.
You are Locked On Sunbelt, your daily podcast on the Sunbelt Conference, part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Dave Schultz back on another edition of Locked On Sunbelt, your podcast every day. That's not right. Your team every day. There we go. I got all flustered about the new artwork behind me. Thank you very much for tuning in. I host afternoons on Sports Radio 105.5 WNSP in Mobile, Alabama, covering the South Alabama Jaguars, and prior to that, covering the Louisiana Raging Cajuns, and doing mornings on 103.7 The Game. I'm not sure if is it the first. I probably should pay attention. Austin Crowley got the first Sunbelt Player of the Week in Sunbelt play, it should be noted. And we will talk, Bryan Maggard, talk to the local media in Lafayette about the construction project. We will do that as well. We're trying to get, and when I say we're, me, myself, and I are trying to get Bryan Maggard on the Locked On Sunbelt podcast. Come on, Doc. Come on the show. Come on the show, Doc. We would be thrilled to have you. All right, so let's first talk about Southern Miss, obviously off to a tremendous start. What are they, 13-2? And 2-0 in the Sun Belt. They have the most wins in the conference. Marshall has 12. James Madison has 11, but a win over Marshall. And the Cajuns, 0-2, they are 10-4 in the conference. But Austin Crowley, big ball game in game number 2 in the Sun Belt. First game against Troy, pretty solid. 17 points, 6 rebounds, and 5 assists. That'll work. 64-60 ball game over Troy. Then against App State, he really exploded. 30 points, 5 rebounds, 3 assists, 1 block. It does have some turnover issues. Had 6 turnovers against App. He actually had 7 turnovers in a ball game against UNLV. But still, a very nice week for Austin Crowley and Southern Miss as we start to look ahead to week number 2 in the Sun Belt. And I know the Jaguars are dying to get home. Again, the Jaguars have not been home for 2 weeks, which they will be now. They haven't been home for 2 weeks since before the season started. They were on the road immediately. They played 2 games, and they were on the road immediately. And really, I've only played 2 more games since. All right, so let's see here. Southern Miss, big ball game on Thursday, matching up with those Cajuns. Cajuns trying to get off the schneid. So does something give, whereas Southern Miss loses and the Cajuns win, or does Southern Miss stay hot and make it 3-0 in the Sun Belt? And the Cajuns are dying as well. Not only South Alabama looking to get a win in the Sun Belt, but the Cajuns are absolutely desperate to turn things around back at home. Monroe, they're 2-0. They're looking to host Georgia State. That could be an interesting matchup. Georgia Southern is taking on Marshall. Old Dominion is at Troy. It's a little bit of a trek. Texas State going in the other direction at James Madison. And probably the closest matchup, other than maybe Southern Miss and the Cajuns, Coastal Carolina and App State. So we'll see how that goes this week. But you do have some nice matchups there. Southern Miss and the Cajuns. You also have, well, that was kind of it. That's the big matchup. Southern Miss and the Cajuns are the big matchup for the week, as it turns out. Because standings-wise, let's get another screen up here. Because standings-wise, it seems it's all jumbled up in terms of who's playing who. All right, so let's look here. All right, so you got we said Southern Miss at the Cajuns. Arkansas State is playing South Alabama. Arkansas State's 9-6, but 1-1. They got a loss to Monroe. So again, better than South Alabama, but not crazy. Georgia State is taking on Monroe. Georgia State is 8-6 and 1-1 in conference play. Monroe, remember, is 6-9, so not that big a difference. A little bit of a difference. Excuse me. Coastal's taking on App. Coastal Carolina is 7-6. App State is 7-8. So close matchup. Coastal's 1-1 in the conference, and App State is 0-2. So Texas State and James Madison. James Madison off to a good start, 11-4. Texas State is not. Texas State 0-2 in the conference, 7-8 overall. Marshall and Georgia Southern may be a good one. Marshall is 12-3. Georgia Southern 9-6, but Georgia Southern 2-0. Marshall 1-1. They got that loss against James Madison. So again, we will see the big matchup really this weekend is Southern Miss taking on the Cajuns, and can Austin Crowley keep it up for the Golden Eagles. So they are off to a tremendous start, and they can even separate themselves. It's a huge opportunity. I mean, it's a great opportunity for the Cajuns to get back in the race, and I know it's only 2 games in, but what an opportunity for Southern Miss to sort of keep on pushing the Cajuns down, and that's a huge deal because the Cajuns are going to be desperate going into this ballgame. All right, so that is, and of course we'll recap those all on Friday. We'll wait until after the. I'll be at the South Alabama ball games this weekend, and we'll recap it when the episode will come after that. So we'll have all the games done for the Friday episode. We'll be able to recap that. All right, let's take a time out. Bryan Maggard did talk to the media about Dr. Bryan Maggard, Director of Athletics for the UL Raging Cajuns, did talk to the media about the time frame for the Cajun Field Project. It is going to take a bit. So we will do that when we come back. But first, let me tell you about BetOnline. BetOnline.net is your number one source for sports betting info, stats, news, and analysis. Get the latest odds and trends for every professional and amateur league out there. From pro football to college bowl season to basketball and soccer, we've got it all at BetOnline.net. If you love sports podcasts, you can even find those at BetOnline as well. We're always the fastest and easiest way to get your betting info. Head to the website today or use your mobile device to learn more. BetOnline, where the game starts. What is that? TCU is minus 13.5 or plus 13.5. Whew. That would have been a tough one on this past game if you did not have the underdogs over the weekend. And, Georgia didn't seem to play all that well. Certainly beat Ohio State. But you would think that, and Georgia's kind of beat up. I'm leaning towards TCU covering. Maybe take a flyer on TCU winning because that's kind of where the money is. I think it's like a plus 500 or something like that on the money line. So it's worth rolling the dice to make a few bucks. All right. Meanwhile, we talked about in yesterday's episode on how we got an update from the Raging Cajuns on, let me see how they want to name this. The Cajun Field at Our Lady in the Lord's Stadium. They're the sponsor. They came up with $15 million, reading from Kevin Foote in The Advocate. This was in June of 2021. So we're more than 2 years, well, more than a year and a half, not 2 years. It's 2023 now, but we're a year and a half later, and they haven't moved earth yet. And so we talked about it yesterday that they came out and said, kind of an odd announcement, and maybe it was because of season tickets and tickets moving and such, because they are removing the upper deck, that construction will not begin until after the 2023 season. Well, now that's all year long. All year long. So not doing any construction this year. And after the 2023 season is basically, the second weekend of December. I mean, I guess at one point in time you can, if the Cajuns are eliminated from hosting the conference championship game, you can start the beginning of December. But most likely, my guess is construction is going to start early 2024. And that means, again, the time frame on there is 18 to 24 months. So now you're looking for maybe the 2025 season if all goes according to plan. But how often do construction projects go according to plan? And you never know what the weather is going to bring. So you could really be looking at 2026. Like this is going to be done at the beginning of 2026, and that's when you're going to get in there. All right, so now let's find out what Bryan Maggard says. Quote, "It's just been very time-consuming and very slow. We're progressing. The ball continues to move. We continue to make progress. Personally, I always want things to happen faster than they do, but no, we're moving along and we'll get there." Foot writes, Maggard said the entire project is still technically in the back end of the design phase. If the demolition phase follows the 2023 season as hoped, season ticket holders for the 2024 season can anticipate the possibility of their seats changing location. As Maggard says, you never know with the weather, said a new timeline. Anything about construction projects is you really never know what you're getting until you start breaking ground. The project calls for a new west tower to house premium amenities. It's too early to know exactly what percentage of season ticket holders will have to move to the east side or south end zone of the stadium, but certainly in the upper deck, anyone on the upper deck reserved would have new seats, Maggard said. Project upgrades will include premium suites, a club level, club seats, loge boxes, and a press box, according to the university's website. Amenities in the premium suites will include private indoor and outdoor seating, access to a climate-controlled club area, catering, cash bar, and a suite attendant. The loge boxes will feature private outdoor seating and premium parking access. Club seat holders will be assigned outdoor seating with chairs and armrests and beverage holders. Loge box and club seat holders will have access to the club area, which will also serve as a dining facility for student athletes throughout the year, the website says. Project also includes new video board, lights, sound system, renovated seating, new facade, and office space for athletic staff. Construction shouldn't affect daily practice sessions for the team during the 2024 season, but there will be some inconveniences for fans. That's just what you have to do. That's part of the hurdle to overcome to get where you want to go to. The ultimate goal is progress. Maggard goes on to say, what I'm most excited about is offering a premium experience for people at our venue that will hopefully enhance attendance and ticket sales. As for the football season that ended with a 23-16 loss to Houston, Maggard said he was encouraged greatly by the team's strong finish. Second half of the season showed me we got better in all areas. I know the locker room is very, very supportive of our head coach and coaching staff. All right, a couple things that hit me here. And I would love to have Dr. Maggard on to discuss this. Because this is the big thing here. It's about what I'm most excited about is offering a premium experience for people at our venue that will hopefully enhance attendance and ticket sales. That's the problem. I don't think you have a problem getting the higher end people to show up at the games. The problem is you have, the people that have a little bit less to show up at the games, and that's where the attendance comes from. It's not the people who are shelling out big bucks to sit in the good seats that's an issue. You were having trouble filling up the upper deck. Also, the far side, which is the visitors' side. The home side gets filled. Unfortunately, it doesn't look that way on TV. And I would say South Alabama does a really good job of putting the students right in the camera shot. And so it looks really good. Also, Hancock Whitney Stadium is much smaller than Cajun Field. One's 41,000 plus, and the other is about 24,000. So that's what hits me. I'm most excited about is offering a premium experience. You can keep on raising prices. That's what that means. When you're giving them a premium experience and make more revenue, but you may not be getting more people into the stadium. So that's what I'd be concerned about. Something that I had not realized in a long time. I don't think I mentioned this yesterday. Being from Central New York, when I was growing up, the Carrier Dome, like Colgate would draw 35,000. But anybody in the Big East, even Rutgers, would draw 40 to 45,000. And the big ball games, the West Virginias of the world, the Miamis of the world, it's close to 50. And then, the economy took a hit and has never really recovered, although they are getting some technology jobs up there now. So something that will get done, in 10 years, there'll be much more people up there. But, a lot of the people left. A lot of the, middle class, upper middle class left. And so the good crowds now are 30 to 35,000. and you're trying to compete with teams in the ACC that draw 60 and 70,000. It's not easy to do. So I'm interested to hear what he's got to say about the premium experience, which means more revenue, but not necessarily more people. Because I think the Cajuns, it's a big deal if the Cajuns can draw 20 to 25,000 every week, that's pretty good. Because you can't deny it, they're going up against LSU. Even when they were good when I was there and winning 9 games a year, they're going to leave at halftime. If they're starting at 6 and LSU's starting at 8, they're going to go in the parking lot and put on the LSU game and watch it. Now they can watch both, as the Cajuns are on ESPN Plus or ESPN3, whatever it may be. But it is an issue for now, the attendance. And when I read what I'm most excited about is offering a premium experience, that means more money, but not necessarily more people. So we shall see on how that goes. Again, we'd love to have Dr. Maggard on Locked On Sunbelt. Speaking of Locked On Sunbelt, really appreciate you continuing to watch and listen. Again, 100 downloads or so already this week. A little bit more consistency without the holidays coming up. And we are completely reaching out to players that want to be on and coaches that want to be on. We'll have some luck with some basketball coaches, hopefully. They may be less structured in their time compared to football coaches, right? Because, you spend all week getting ready for one team, whereas basketball, a little less structured, I would think, because you're getting ready for, 2 teams. And, you're not putting everything into it. I'm saying this wrong, right? It's just, I think what I'm saying, football coaches seem to be much more intense, and every second of their day is taken up. I'm sure that's the same way for basketball coaches, but there are usually 2 games. So it's, you're not putting everything in. Let me say that. You're not putting everything into one game because you got 2 games in the same week. So hopefully we will get some basketball coaches on, and we'll see if we get some players on as well. And we're not that far away. What are we, 2 months away from baseball getting underway, and softball? We'll do a little softball because softball is big in the Sun Belt. Here in Mobile for South Alabama, they were the Sun Belt. Well, the Cajuns were the Sun Belt champions, but South Alabama made a little bit of run, and the Cajuns are big in it as well. And there's other teams in the Sun Belt that softball is big. Troy, it's big as well. All right. So I do want to encourage you to continue to download and subscribe. You can follow me at SchultzyCast. We try to get out all the Sun Belt news that we can on Twitter. I do need probably a Locked On Sun Belt Twitter feed. That would be handy. But I do want to encourage you to subscribe to the podcast wherever you get your podcasts, and YouTube as well. So subscribe there as well. All right. So looking forward to week number 2 in college basketball in the Sun Belt. Again, we mentioned that the biggest ball game, I guess there are 2 big games, at least to begin with. Southern Miss and the Cajuns to begin with, and then Marshall and Troy as well. South Alabama hosting Arkansas State, and hopefully, South Alabama is hoping they get a win. Let's see who is on Saturday's schedule. I mean, Southern Miss making that Louisiana trip. I mean, it could be very interesting. Could Southern Miss and UL Monroe both be 3-0 heading into that Saturday action? That's big time. Texas State comes to South Alabama, Old Dominion, going to Georgia Southern, Coastal Carolina in a tough matchup against Marshall, Arkansas State at Troy, Georgia State at Louisiana, and App State is at James Madison. James Madison looks like they are going to be a huge winner this year for the Sun Belt in terms of football and in terms of basketball. Oh, it should be mentioned quickly. I did see this. Let's get out the phone. Troy saw who they are playing in their crossover game. So Troy announced their crossover football games for next season. And they get JMU. I wonder if that was intentional or unintentional. So Troy announced their full schedule this year, and it includes James Madison and Georgia State. Now, we thought it would be better off if James Madison played Troy for the conference championship compared to Coastal Carolina, since James Madison beat Coastal Carolina, but I don't make up the rules. But it should be noted that Troy will be playing James Madison next year in the crossover game. So maybe that eliminates South Alabama from taking on James Madison. Not necessarily. James Madison's got to play 2 in the West. So we'll see how that goes. But that came out today. I didn't see any other Sun Belt teams announcing their football schedule. In fact, Troy announced the entire football schedule. They got Arkansas State, James Madison, Cajun, South Alabama, Stephen F. Austin, Western Kentucky. That's going to be a great football game. The defense of Troy against Austin Reed, who's coming back, and the offense of Western Kentucky. That's going to be a spectacular matchup. They go to West Point. They're taking on at Georgia State, at Kansas State. I mean, Troy's got a heck of a schedule here. At Southern Miss, Texas State, and ULM. I mean, I think South Alabama, with their schedule, which is now Tulane, and Oklahoma State, they can make a run at it. But boy, if Troy handles James Madison and Western Kentucky and somehow handles Kansas State, they're going to be right in that. And I know we don't get the 12-team playoff until 24, but Troy could be pretty good next year. That is certainly a tough schedule, but I would look at it as an opportunity. All right, once again, thank you very much for tuning in to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day. I'm your host. Have a great day, and I'm your host, Dave Schultz. How about that? And it's been a little bit of a show's been a little bit off today. But I want to thank you again for listening. I'm your host, Dave Schultz, and you've been listening to Locked On Sunbelt, your team every day.